Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's blessing and peace be on you. It is said we are living in an age of crisis, an age in which humanity is facing not only one but a multitude of crises. Perhaps the most important crisis is what we may call intellectual crisis. Today we find the man who was very happy with modernism feels modernism is no more relevant. Therefore he thinks postmodernism is the way of life. Today we find human beings who are very happy with capitalist system, economic development. They find capitalism and modern economy has not been able to deliver goods to humanity. Therefore, economic crisis exists. Today we also find culture and society facing a serious crisis. Culture of today does not represent culture of yesterday. Culture of future may have completely different dimensions. Similarly, human personality presents a crisis. Personalities of the people living in various parts of the world are subject to not only one but many factors. Human beings today find their personalities in a state of conflict and crisis because their role model has changed. People who were considered ethical role models are no more considered relevant for new personality. The new personality often represents a person who may appear like a TV superstar, who may appear like a pop singer, who may appear like a person who is half lost in drugs. Yet that personality is projected through media, advertisements, print media, electronic media, and all around us. Therefore, we are living in an age of crisis which is intellectual, which is economic, which is social, which is cultural, and that relates with the overall human personality. But perhaps the deepest crisis is crisis of values. That values which call for one single humanity have been replaced with values of self-centeredness. Values that call for human beings to protect each other have been replaced by values of brutality, violence, terrorism, and all those aspects that you find in human society today. Why do you find this crisis? Is it a natural phase in history? Is it because of human beings deviating from the path of nature? Islam looks on human nature as a phenomenon. Islam takes into consideration what is most natural for human beings. Therefore, Islamic perspective tells us that whatever crisis we have is to be explored, understood, and analyzed in view of our human condition. Human beings, whether they are in one country or the other, they have to act in the most natural way. The most natural way is to let a society develop and grow which recognizes and values a rational living. If we act irrational, if we act emotional, if we act erratic, we cannot have peace in society. Therefore, basic human rationality needs to be restored. We cannot treat human beings as just a conglomeration of physical needs and drives and one's desires. On the other hand, human being is to be understood in terms of a rational unity which has a reason for living a reason for striving, a reason for development, a reason for creation of new ways and models of living. Secondly, when we talk about economic crisis, we need to understand, in the name of globalization, in the name of so-called balance of economic poles, we have been told that certain interest groups have to determine what should be the nature of economies of countries. The economy, which was based at one time as free competition, has been transformed into certain clubs. That clubs determine what are going to be economic policies of one part of the world or the other. A kind of economic colonialism, a kind of economic imposition, a kind of economic globalization by pressurizing people to move in one certain dimension has taken place in our contemporary history. This creates a serious economic crisis and calls for people who are concerned to look, analyze, and come up with a viable solution where the independence of economic groups is fully recognized. Independence of countries and people who have economic interests must prevail over the so-called groups of various interest groups. Similarly, the crisis we face in terms of culture, where in the name of globalization, every single home is receiving those signals, those messages which are aired thousands of miles away from certain satellites. They tell the coming generations, the existing community of mankind, what is good and what is wrong. With the help of multi-dimensional media, with the help of all those influences that exist around us through technology, we are told that quality of life is good when you behave like a certain person in society. That Western image of affluence, that Western model of a good life is projected through not one, but hundreds of programs beamed in from satellites. This imposition of culture has been able to replace cultures of people which were not only traditional but extremely valuable. Those who till yesterday thought sitting around dinner table they should chat and talk with their kids are told you should sit in front of a TV screen and watch a soap opera which cannot be appreciated by all members of family due to its obscenity, violence, and vulgarity. Therefore, the culture that has been beamed in and imposed on us creates a crisis of not only values, but a crisis of self-understanding. How should I understand myself? What is the mirror that tells me whether I am moving in one direction or the other? Similarly, we find a crisis that has taken place in our family. Family values, family atmosphere, family love, family consideration are being replaced with a narrow individualism, that the individual who is part of family, who discovers his roots in family, feels very much alienated. Individuals take their own interest as more valuable than interest of family. The crisis of family is more reflected when we find a sexual revolution taking place in society where the deadly disease AIDS, which is an anti-family disease, a disease that eats up family values, a disease that says that family is not the place where you feel satisfied, happy, and comfortable, but you go out, satisfy yourself wherever you want, and create a society which is full of deadly disease. This crisis is not something small. This crisis is more serious than nuclear proliferation. Nuclear war can destroy one single part and its dust can reach certain regions. But the deadly disease AIDS has penetrated all over the globe. It affects not only those who are born today, but the whole coming generations get affected. So crisis is not superficial. It's extremely deep. And unless a moral solution is applied, we cannot face these crises. Islam comes forward and addresses these contemporary problems and tells us that if you live an ethical and moral life, even if you have to go for a family which is larger, even if you have to get more than one wife, you still maintain family values, chastity, piety, fidelity, and honesty. You're not supposed to cheat on your family. Therefore, the deadly disease AIDS is naturally cured by a system of family that Islam provides. The crisis we face in economy, Islam recognizes right to property, right to development, right to economic participation, and through a system which is free of exploitation, offers a solution to humanity. It also tells us that you have to develop a personality which is observant of one single principle of unity in life, that life is integrity, that life cannot be compartmentalized, that you should have one single principle for your sitting room, for your bedroom, for your business, for your human relations. You cannot have 10 different principles operating in 10 different kind of activities. This brings unity in personality. This brings a personality in life, in action, which observes human values, which creates love for other human beings, which creates balance in life, and which provides room for an ongoing human development. By addressing itself to intellectual problems, Islam tells us that one has to go ahead and make as much progress in science, technology by acquiring knowledge. Knowledge which is not just convenient, but knowledge which is useful for proper development of personality and human society. In brief, Islam addresses itself to issues that have intellectual nature, cultural nature, economic nature, personal nature, and every single area suggests ethics consciousness, that you have to be ethical and moral. You have to look not only for your own interest, but for the interest of humanity, for the interest of family, for the interest of community, for the peace and love for all those who are around you. And that's why modern crises can be met, can be easily resolved if we are able to develop an ethics-centered approach, an approach in which it is ethics that decides our economy, our family, and our society.